Air traffic control has been massively understaffed for years, and here's how we fix it. Hey guys, my name is Katie. I'm a professional pilot, and for some reason, nobody is talking about the fact that air traffic control has been massively understaffed for years. There have been reports from the FAA that some facilities are operating at only 60%, such as DCA, which was recently highlighted in a very tragic air accident. But overall, the average is 70% staffing for the air traffic controls facility over the US, and some facilities are like 63%. So obviously that's an issue because air traffic controllers are just having to take massive amounts of overtime. They're working 2 times the amount of work for like one shift, and this is just too much to ask of them, and obviously that's going to have an impact on safety. So let's talk about how to fix it. Now, before I get into this video, I want to give a disclaimer, which is that some people, anytime we talk about any problem in aviation, they're going to freak out and be like, oh, it's not safe, we can't fly, and all these kinds of things. That's really not necessary. And it's honestly coming from a place of fear of people that are kind of already afraid of flying. Let me just be very clear. There is no safer way to travel in the sky than in the US airspace with an American pilot on an American airline. We truly lead the world in aviation in quality and safety. And so you should keep flying, but this is an issue that needs to be addressed because we're kind of hosing our air traffic controllers that they've just been having to work their butts off for years to compensate for these ridiculous government hiring rules that they have been subjected to. So if you're not aware, the maximum hiring age for an air traffic controller is 31 years of age, and the mandatory retirement age is 56. So what that means is that you're cutting out a huge chunk of your qualified applicants, which would be former military, like people that are retiring from special operations at the ripe old age of like 37, 38, because maybe they enlisted at 17 or 18 years old. They've done their 20. Now they're like super fit. They have a higher IQ than 99% of the world, and they are insanely good at handling stress. And they've just been like working with airspace in foreign countries while trying to get killed and like controlling airplanes dropping bombs. Yeah, those guys might be really good air traffic controllers, but they're all taken out of this equation because they're too old. Now, the FAA has said that the reason for this maximum age of 31 is because they want to get 25 years of service out of their air traffic controllers, which I'm sorry is just like it's such an outdated mindset. Why not just say, what is the cost to train a controller? And then how many years do they need to work here to recoup that? It's probably like 5 or something. And then just make that like their training requirement contract. Like, how about do that instead of this random, like, we need to get a solid 25 out of them. Outdated mindset. People don't always work at the same place for 25 years. And an air traffic controller serving for 10 years, that might be really valuable because they've more than paid off their, training requirements that they were put through in Oklahoma City, and they've done enough. They're kind of ready to move on to the next thing. And they've said that the reason is also possibly because like people stop learning as fast when they're, over the hill at 32 years old. And honestly, this is just freaking wrong and stupid. Like there's so many people that are becoming pilots and doing career 2.0 at 30s and 40s. And like, this is just not true. I mean, we've seen in the previous election a very clear example of two people who are very close in age and in vastly different places cognitively. So we all know that it's an individual thing. We can take the retirement age up to 65 and just match what airline pilots are doing. So if you're not aware, airline pilots just at airlines, like people can fly for corporate and other things like that past the age of 65, but airline pilots have to retire at 65 years of age. So you're telling me that somebody can get into an Airbus with hundreds of people on it and fly from continent to continent at 64, but then an air traffic controller can't sit in a desk chair and do things on a computer screen. Like, make it make sense. So the other thing they've stated is like, oh, it's a really stressful job. Like people just can't work past 65, which again is like a stupid idea that is just pulled out of thin air. Like it's so dumb. Not that the job is stressful. I'm not downplaying what air traffic controllers do at all. Mad respect to you guys. I'm just saying like the reason it's stressful is because you're worried about like actually causing an accident for the people who are actually in the sky. Like it's stressful for pilots too. So why is a pilot able to work till 65 and 56 is the mandatory retirement age for air traffic controllers? Honestly, it is just an outdated mindset and it needs to change. So This is what needs to change. Get rid of 31 as the maximum hiring age. Get rid of 56, move it up to 65 to match pilots. Like, it just makes sense. The other thing that you may not be aware of is another stupid government thing that they do, which is basically, instead of you getting hired like, hey, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I would love to work as an air traffic controller in Atlanta, Georgia. Let me get hired for the tower. No, you get hired as an air traffic controller, and then you bid based off of your ranking in your class out of 312, I believe, locations that you could be assigned to. And then based off your ranking is maybe they'll give it to you. So when you decide to be an air traffic controller, like, you have no idea where you're going to live, which, again, I know where this comes from. The FAA is run by people that were like former military officers, and then they just got into the government job and did that forever, and like just modeled the same way, because that's how we did things when I was an Army officer. You just get ranked in your class, and then maybe you can pick your duty station off that. And there's a max age for Army officers. Like, it's the exact same thing, but it's like, it does not make any sense. It does not make any sense. So get rid of 31, get rid of 66, and get rid of this like ridiculous location hiring, and have pathways for people who are former Green Berets, former JTACs, like, fire support officers, all these people in the Army that have been doing this exact same job, except in a much more stressful situation in combat. Like, this is not that hard to figure out. It's just that we're letting the FAA be run by a very old, outdated mindset that really does not make sense. And we need to get past that, because we are not doing the general public or air traffic controllers any favors. And honestly, for us paying taxes to pay for this whole thing, like, you guys need to do a better job. Like, this is just not cutting it. Another thing I would love to see, which I know will never happen because pilots have been begging for medical reform forever, and you guys have actually gone the other direction, is for the ability for pilots who have maybe lost their medical or had a medical deferred to be able to work as an air traffic controller if they wanted to. So before, you're like, oh my God, it's not safe. Like, what if the air traffic controller had a heart attack and died in their seat? Okay, like, let's work through this then. What if a pilot had a heart attack and died in their seat? Let's say it's a single pilot. Obviously, a lot of safety implications to that, right? This is why we have such a strict medical process where we have EKGs and all these other things. Now, let's say an air traffic controller has a heart attack and dies in their seat, and 4 other people are in the room with them, and they immediately notice, and there's a minor interruption. And we know this because this has actually happened before. Air traffic controllers have had strokes while on the clock. It's actually recorded on audio, and the reason people knew was because her speech was changing, and so the pilots were like, hey, I think the controller needs some help. And there was no accident, there was no incident. And again, this is no hate to the air traffic controllers. Your job is very important, but like, it's not the same single point of failure that it could be with a pilot. So we do not need to have the exact same rules. Now, again, this video is not hitting on air traffic controllers. This is actually more saying, like, we're doing you guys a disservice. Like, I remember the multiple government shutdowns that you guys have been through when I was working as a flight instructor for the Air Force and the Marine Corps for initial flight training. We went through a government shutdown, one of many that air traffic controllers have been through, where they just didn't get paid. They still came into work on a volunteer basis because they did that out of the goodness of their hearts to keep us safe. We literally brought them pizza and Visa gift cards during lunch as a thank you, and so that they could like have a little cash to pay their bills while they're not getting paid. I'm sorry, in the richest country in the world, that's embarrassing. We should not need to do that. And this understaffing thing has been going on for way too long. The reason the general public doesn't know about this is because you air traffic controllers are so freaking good at your jobs, and you take your jobs so seriously that you've just been carrying the slack for way too long, and it's not okay. It is not okay for us to be paying this much in taxes and for you guys to be working 2 to 3 times the amount of workload you should be working, and to be having to do overtime and all these other things just to keep the general public moving in air travel. This is wrong. We just need to get rid of these ridiculous, outdated government rules, and we need to hire more people, and the right kind of people, which we're missing because we can't hire past 31. So you're getting rid of all the former retiring special operators who are freaking fit and run 12 miles before breakfast and have an IQ of 175. Like, why are we doing this? Oh, because it's run by the government and it's stupid and it's outdated. Okay, stop. Anyways, if you're not pissed off yet enough, I'm going to title this video Dear Donald Trump. And this is not a political statement. This is just to say, like, please, somebody in government, get your eyes on this. So please do not go fighting in the comments. This is not a pro or con over Donald Trump. And if you're not smart enough to figure that out, then that's an IQ test in and of itself. Okay. This has nothing to do about like pro Trump, anti-Trump. All right. So take that conversation somewhere else because we've all had enough of it. This is just to say, like, this is a serious problem and we have a solution and it needs to be seen by the right people. Anyways, I think I'm done ranting. So thanks for watching. Please put your insight in the comments. This is insane to me that this has like been a problem that's just been going on and air traffic controllers have been carrying the burden. So again, I want to say thank you to all you guys. You guys are amazing at your jobs. You're so professional and you've been carrying this double, triple the weight for too long. So hopefully this can get fixed. Thanks for watching, guys. And as always, fly safely.